Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are working on a 2004 Hyundai Santa Fe with a 3.5 liter motor, and it's the GLS model, and we are having an overheating issue. As of last night, I was at work. My wife texts me and also sends me a photo and says, "Did you get my photo?" I said, "No, checked it. Her car was overheating. No check engine lights or nothing. All she said it was steaming on the passenger side." And I actually went to go pick her up, and my child came back, went back to work, went back home to go pick up this thing, drove it 10 miles before it started overheating again. So I bought some gallon buckets just in case, because we know that these aluminum engines on these cars, they don't seem to last very long. I haven't really seen a Hyundai that lasts about 250,000 miles, and if you are, then you're lucky. This is the second time this car is overheated. Now, the history that we did on this is that last year we had a problem where this main piping system was leaking. As you can see where all the blue is, we've replaced all the gaskets on this thing because this is an $800 piping system that you have to buy. And there's no thermostat that goes here. This is just the open area because this is a 3.5 liter, and the thermostat actually goes here. Well, we had a problem. The car was overheating. But when I checked, this overflow was not losing any fluid. The radiator was completely full. And there was nothing leaking on the ground besides the AC, because the AC always has a drainage to leak the water out of the system. And the bottom of the engine was completely dry. The pulleys were not wet, they were completely dry. And there was nothing over here wet, it was completely dry. Including on the front of the engine, and the radiator was completely dry. So we didn't find any leaks. So we noticed that it was steaming out of this hole here, and but it wasn't boiling in the reservoir or boiling in here until we added water to it. It started to boil. So we were thinking that maybe it's something small. Well, we replaced the thermostat last year. So when I went to go drive the car, I noticed that when I cranked it up, the car was cold. It took about 5 minutes for it to heat up. It was heating up slowly. So then once it got a little past the cold line, the needle dropped all the way back down to cold. Then about 3 minutes later, it was starting to rise to its normal temperature, which is below the halfway line. Then after 10 minutes of driving it was like a notch before the hot line. The engine stalled on its own, lost the power steering and everything else. So I brought it home, put water in it, tested it. There was still no leaks anywhere on this car, not even on the rear, on the pulley side. There was no squilling, no smoking from the pulleys. There was no smoke at all anywhere from the engine. It would only smoke out of here when the cap has been removed. But there was no water pouring out of here. This thing was full. So I was assuming that maybe the thermostat was stuck closed and it wasn't sending no flow to the actual motor. So what we did is, to do the cheap scenario, we're going to replace the thermostat again and put it back into this hole with a brand new seal. The seal was kind of cracked, and we also noticed that this radiator cap has a bad seal, and as you can see, it's old, it's crusty, and it looks like it needs to be replaced, but there was nothing pouring out of it, no water or anything. But since we're replacing the thermostat, we're going to go ahead and just replace this, because when we bought the car last year, this radiator was replaced from the previous owner, because this car was in an accident once before and they had to replace the radiator. So I noticed that the radiator is not leaking, so that's a good sign. So I went ahead and drained the radiator. There was some brownish water in there, added with, I guess, whatever type of antifreeze they used before. But since it overheated previous time when we had it last year, we took all the liquid out. But I put water in it last night because I wasn't going to spend money on antifreeze, just to be sure this was the problem. So once my wife comes home, probably when I get off of work, I'm going to install the new thermostat with the new seal and with this new cap. Now, I know with these caps that if they're bad, they can cause not the whole pressure, but on some of them you would notice that it'd be leaking, but it wasn't leaking. But I just don't like on how it's the seal's kind of corroded and it's coming apart. So we're gonna do that as well. But I also noticed when I cranked up the car, let the AC run, I noticed that this fan was working properly, it was blowing air, and the fan on the front was blowing properly. So when the engine got to a normal temperature, it was still normal, it wasn't overheating. This fan was revving higher, so that's how I knew the fans were working properly. Turn the AC off, the fans will stop immediately, so I know it's responding. Then that tells me that the temperature sensor is working and the relays are working like they should. And as you can tell, I have no antifreeze in the system. It's all in there. And if you want to know exactly where the drain plug is on this, some of them have them on the passenger side. This car does not. This car, it's actually right there. It's actually right there on the driver's side, right here by the transmission pan. You gotta stick a screwdriver in that hole. I think it's the, yeah, it's the, you gotta stick it in this hole right here. It's a Phillips head plastic cap. You pull that, you can drain it. Now please be aware this is the 3.5 liter. So it's on this side. On some of them I noticed that the plug is on the passenger side. And that's where I looked first, but it's not. On this car, it's on the driver's side on the 3.5 liter GLS. Please keep in mind, you got to take the whole filter thing out to be able to get to this easier, which doesn't take very much work. And what we'll do is that once I get this done, we'll make a second video to show you exactly what we did and how it came out. But everywhere that I called and talked to, because I knew a lot about cars, but I wanted a second opinion just to be sure, because there's just no leaks identifying anywhere, no engine lights, no smoke, no nothing. That we're just thinking it's just that the thermostat went bad over a year. My wife does drive her car a hell of a lot more than I drive mine. She took my car to work. The only causes that we can actually say that if the thermostat process does not work with the new radiator cap as well, the only solution it could be is that maybe the water pump could be failing, which means it's not circulating like it should, or two, could have a bad head gasket. And please subscribe to my channel today, and feel free to comment. And as you know, this is a 2004 Hyundai Santa Fe with a 3.5 liter motor GLS. I'll have a great one.